Hey there, friends. Welcome to English Chapter, the channel where you'll find inspiring, life-changing, and motivational stories that not only uplift you, but also help you sharpen your English skills. Today, I've got something truly remarkable for you. One of the most emotional, powerful, and almost unbelievable success stories ever told. This is the journey of Colonel Sanders, the man who founded KFC at the age of 65. But before we dive in, let me ask you something. Are you 25 and feeling like life is slipping away? Are you 40 and still struggling, wondering if success has passed you by? Are you unemployed, feeling lost and discouraged? Do you look at successful people and think, maybe I'm just not meant for success? If any of that sounds like you, stop right there. Let me tell you something. You are not a failure. It's not too late. You still have time, and today I'm going to prove it to you. Because Colonel Sanders, the man behind KFC, spent most of his life facing failure after failure. At 65, he was struggling financially, out of work, and unsure of what lay ahead. And yet, he made it. But while most people are settling into retirement at 65, Colonel Sanders was just getting started, building what would become a billion-dollar empire. Pay close attention, because once you hear his story, you'll understand that success has no expiration date. Failure? That's just another step along the way. If you enjoy uplifting and motivational stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button so more people can discover this video, and drop a comment below. I will never give up. Let that be your promise to yourself. I bring you the most inspiring and educational stories every day, so be sure to stay on this journey with me. Now, let's jump into the incredible story of Colonel Sanders, the man who transformed failure into a billion-dollar success. The beginning. Let's rewind the clock to September 9th, 1890. In a small house in Henryville, Indiana, USA, a baby boy named Harland David Sanders came into the world. But from the very start, life wasn't easy for him. At just 5 years old, tragedy struck. His father passed away suddenly, leaving his mother alone to care for 3 children. Now, imagine being a little kid, waking up one morning to realize that your father is gone forever. No warning, no goodbyes, just an empty space where he used to be. His mother was devastated, but grief wasn't a luxury she could afford. With 3 children to feed, she had no choice but to work day and night just to keep them alive. And what did that mean for little Harland? At only 5 years old, he became the one responsible for running the entire household. He cooked meals for his family. He looked after his younger siblings. He'd handled all the chores that most kids his age wouldn't even think about. But here's where something incredible happened. Amid all that responsibility, Harland discovered something he truly loved: cooking. At the time, he had no idea that this simple passion would one day change the world. As for school, that wasn't in the cards. Harland was a bright kid, but life had other plans. By the time he was 7, he was already working on a farm. And by 10, he was a full-time farmhand. And get this, his hard work earned him just $2 a month. That's right. An entire month of labor for only $2. Can you imagine how tough that must have been? By the time Harland turned 12, he'd had enough. His mother had remarried, but his relationship with his stepfather was difficult and full of challenges. One day, Harland made up his mind. I can't stay here anymore. And just like that, he decided to leave. And so, at just 12 years old, Harland ran away from home, stepping into a world that would only get tougher. From that point on, survival meant taking whatever work he could find. He became a streetcar conductor, a firefighter, a steam engine stoker. He even served in the U.S. Army. He worked as a salesman, a railroad laborer, an insurance agent. You name it, he tried it. But no matter what job he took, things never seemed to work out. Every time he thought he'd finally found some stability, something went wrong. He got fired again and again. His pockets were empty more times than he could count. By the time he hit 40, he still had nothing to show for all those years of struggle. But then, at 40 years old, an opportunity finally came his way. He got a small petrol station in Kentucky. To him, this felt like the break he had been waiting for. So, he decided to try something new. He started selling fried chicken to travelers passing through. And guess what? Word spread. More and more people came just to taste his special recipe. After a lifetime of setbacks, it finally seemed like his luck was turning around. But then, just when things were looking up, disaster struck. Then, just like that, everything crumbled again. The government built a new highway, and with it, his petrol station lost all its customers. His business was finished. Once more, he found himself broke, unemployed, and with no idea what to do next. But here's the thing about Colonel Sanders. He wasn't like most people. He wasn't the kind of man who gave up. He was a fighter. Instead of accepting defeat, he decided to start over. But life wasn't done testing him. After losing his petrol station and restaurant, he had no choice but to take whatever work he could find just to survive. At 44, he got a job cooking in a small cafeteria. At 48, he was washing dishes. By 50, he was managing a motel. But every time it seemed like he was finally getting back on his feet, something would knock him down again. He got fired. He lost money. He had to keep moving, searching for a fresh start. Nothing ever seemed to go his way. Even when he tried opening another restaurant, fate had other plans. A fire burned it to the ground. Now, just take a moment and imagine this. You lose your father at 5. You're forced to work as a child. You run away from home at 12. You take on more than 20 different jobs and fail at every single one. You start a business at 40. It fails. You try again. It literally burns to the ground. At this point, most people would have thrown in the towel. They'd say, maybe success just isn't meant for me. But not Sanders. He refused to accept that he was destined to fail. His life may have been in shambles, but he had one thing that no one else did. His secret fried chicken recipe. And that recipe? It was special. People loved his chicken, and that gave him an idea. Instead of struggling to open another restaurant, he thought, what if I sell my recipe to restaurant owners and take a small commission for every piece of chicken they sell? It was a wild idea, something no one had ever tried before. But at this point, what did he have to lose? He was already broke. He was already failing. So at 62 years old, he put on his now iconic white suit, grabbed his chicken recipe, and started knocking on doors. One door, no. The next door, they laughed at him. Another door, they told him to leave. And another, this will never work, they said. But he didn't stop. Not after one rejection. Not after 10. Not after 50. Not even after 100 rejections. But he never gave up. While most people his age were settling into retirement, Colonel Sanders was out on the road, traveling across America, sleeping in his car, surviving on cheap meals, and facing rejection after rejection every single day. The first yes. Then, after hearing 1,009 rejections, something incredible happened. One restaurant owner, finally said yes. And that was all it took. One yes. That first breakthrough changed everything. Slowly but surely, more restaurant owners started coming on board. His idea was catching on. Customers loved his chicken, and his recipe was proving to be a hit. Then, at 65 years old, the unthinkable happened. KFC was born. A businessman saw the potential in what Sanders was doing and offered to invest. Together, they launched Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. And just like that, a man who had been broke, jobless, and struggling at 62 had built a multi-million-dollar business by 65. Just take that in for a moment. One day you're poor. No one takes you seriously. People laugh at your ideas. And then you become the founder of a global brand. This was the moment everything changed. Colonel Sanders had finally made it. At 65 years old, when most people were settling into retirement, Colonel Sanders had done the impossible. He built Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, from absolutely nothing. The same man who had lost everything again and again was now the founder of what would soon become one of the most recognized food chains in the world. His unique method of frying chicken, with 11 secret herbs and spices, was unlike anything people had ever tasted before. Crispy, juicy, bursting with flavor. Soon, people were lining up outside restaurants, eager to get their hands on his now famous fried chicken. And within just a few years, KFC had expanded to hundreds of locations across America. By the time Colonel Sanders was 73, his brand had grown to over 600 restaurants. His lifelong dream was finally becoming a reality. The big problem. But there was just one issue. Colonel Sanders wasn't a businessman. He was a cook. He loved making chicken. He loved serving people. But running a massive company, that wasn't for him. Managing a fast-growing business came with endless problems. Paperwork, legal issues, financial headaches. And he hated dealing with all of it. He was old. He was exhausted. After a lifetime of struggle, even success wasn't giving him the peace he had hoped for. He was constantly traveling, trying to keep up with the booming business, but the truth was, he felt like he was losing control. KFC was growing too fast, and he was too old to handle it alone, so he made a huge decision. In 1964, at 73 years old, Colonel Sanders sold KFC to a group of investors for $2 million. Now, that might not sound like much today, but back then, it was a massive amount of money. In today's money, that $2 million would be worth around $20 million. But here's the shocking part. He sold KFC for just $2 million. And now, KFC is valued at over $15 billion. Yes, you read that correctly. The brand Sanders built is now worth thousands of times more than what he sold it for. But that decision? It would haunt him for the rest of his life. After selling KFC, Colonel Sanders thought he'd finally earned the chance to rest and enjoy his life. He had the money, he had the fame, he had the success. But there was a massive problem. The new owners of KFC began making changes. They started cutting corners. They lowered the quality of the chicken and began using cheaper ingredients just to increase their profits. When Sanders saw what was happening, he was outraged. KFC wasn't just a business to him, it was his life's work. He had struggled for 65 years to create something incredible. And now, in just a few short years, these businessmen were dismantling everything he had built. So, even though he had sold the company, he couldn't stay quiet. He began publicly criticizing KFC. He even went as far as saying, "The stuff they serve today isn't my recipe, it's terrible." But no matter how loud he complained, there was nothing he could do to change things. The company had already been sold. It was too late. He had made his choice, and now he had to live with it. And that, for Sanders, became his biggest regret. Even after selling KFC, Sanders didn't stop working. His passion for food never died. He opened a new restaurant called Claudia Sanders Dinner House, named after his wife. However, legally, he couldn't use the KFC name anymore, but he didn't let that stop him. He continued traveling the world, visiting KFC locations, meeting fans, and sharing his incredible story. Over time, he became one of the most beloved and well-known businessmen in the world. People saw him as a symbol of hard work, perseverance, and proof that success doesn't come with an age limit. But like all journeys, his time was coming to an end. In 1980, at the age of 90, Colonel Sanders passed away. His life had been a roller coaster of pain, struggle, failure, and ultimate success. He had faced the devastating loss of his father at just 5 years old, left home at 12, worked more than 20 different jobs, and failed at most of them. He started his first business at 40, only to lose it. At 62, he went broke and was sleeping in his car. He faced 909 rejections before finally finding success. At 73, he became a millionaire. But he lived with the regret of selling his company, even as he left behind an empire. Today, KFC operates in over 150 countries, with more than 27,000 restaurants. It's one of the world's largest and most successful food brands, and it all began with one man who refused to quit. What you can learn from his story: age is just a number. Colonel Sanders didn't achieve success until his 60s, showing us that it's never too late to begin chasing your dreams. Failure isn't the end. Sanders faced rejection after rejection, yet he never gave up. Instead of surrendering, he kept pushing forward, learning from each setback and fine-tuning his approach. Persistence pays off. Sanders faced rejection not just once or twice, but a staggering 1,009 times. Most people would have quit long before reaching that number. But he refused to give up, and in the end, his persistence paid off. Pursue what you love. Cooking and sharing great food wasn't just a hobby for Sanders. It was his passion. That deep love for what he did kept him moving forward, even when the road was tough. Have faith in yourself. The challenges he faced would have discouraged almost anyone, but Sanders never doubted himself or his vision. He refused to let others' skepticism dictate his destiny. His story is proof of what's possible when you refuse to quit. Whether you're in your 20s or well into your 60s, you have the power to transform your life. Your future is in your hands, and your dreams are still within reach. The real question is, will you push forward, or will you let obstacles stop you? So if you're struggling right now, remember this: you're not alone. Your dreams are still possible. And no matter your age, there's always time to succeed. Start today. If Colonel Sanders' journey inspires you, don't let fear or self-doubt keep you from moving forward. Take just one small step toward your goals. It could be launching a new business, picking up a new skill, or simply making a plan. Success isn't a straight path. It's a journey filled with highs and lows. But if you stay determined, you will get there. No matter where you are in life, it's never too late to start fresh and chase your dreams. Stay tuned for more powerful stories that could change your life. And as always, keep going.